Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. It is another Sunday, which means more questions and answers from you, the people, the comments. As a reminder, as always, before we get into the video itself, if you guys do want your questions answered, if there's things you'd like to ask me, whether it be Rocket League related or otherwise, personal or otherwise, make sure you drop those down in the comments below. I'll do my best to pick those that provide really good conversation, and sometimes there are some funny ones off here and there that I do just answer because they're quick and easy. Anyway, we've got about 4 or 5 questions for y'all today. Some that are pretty good conversation pieces, some that are a little bit goofy. So let's tackle it right away. First one comes from David Watkins. It says, great episode as always. So I've got 2 questions. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. See that fan in the background? What do we need to do so we can pitch in for a new AC unit? Jokes aside, it's not that I need like a new AC unit. I have an AC unit in the room that's like next to me. The difficulty is that because it pushes and my like apartment's very long that way, the air just needs to be shoved into the appropriate room. So as long as it runs during the day and stuff, we're fine. But I've got lights above me and 2 computers and all. It just gets really hot in this room. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness, but we're doing okay. Serious question though from David says, on a serious note, super excited for your new show coming up. Thank you, man. Me as well. We just finished shooting the first episode. I think the final edits are starting to come. I've gotten a preview of the episode before like the final takes that we did. And it's just, I'm so excited for it. It's gonna be super cool. Is the show going to conflict with your Twitch, YouTube content where we should expect a different stream upload schedule? David, I appreciate you even having that concern and trying to find a way to make sure you stay ahead of the curve. And so we can update it. It is something that I definitely had consideration for. And I try to schedule things around it. The only thing that's really gonna suffer, I will say, is my Twitch content. Twitch is just difficult because I have to be there. I have to be live. I have to be at my computer. I have to dedicate and allocate a specific amount of time to do it. While YouTube and stuff, I can just record before or after. I can get it done. I can, you know, in some days record 3 or 4 videos and get those out for a majority of the week. And that frees up other time to do other things. So YouTube shouldn't be an issue. It's just a matter of if I'm busy or if I have to travel or something. Like if the show does really, really well, then I'll have to fly to a studio and that means I'll be removed from elsewhere. And you may see some things hurt. If anything, it's probably going to be the Twitch content just because Twitch itself is really tough to stay up to date with because I have to be there. But YouTube is always going to be kind of that emphasis to see if we can continue to obviously grow and all that kind of stuff, and being consistent is part of that. But yeah, that is definitely a concern. It's something that I took into consideration when we started setting things up. But the fact that we've already shot and basically produced and gotten together a majority of the first episode shows that we can still kind of make things work. It's just if the show does very well and it goes to in studio and stuff, then it's going to be a little bit more complicated. But in the end, I usually don't sleep anyway, so why start now? Just keep grinding and we'll get the content out to you guys. Second question comes from Jason Zeems. It says, do you have a favorite casting partner, or was casting with different people a fun experience during matches? Also love the content. You make it a lot easier to keep up to date with everything going on. First and foremost, Jason, thank you again for the niceness. But yeah, casting in itself is a very unique thing. As a commentator, you can very, very quickly understand if the person you're casting with has experience or not. And that can be kind of make or break, and it depends on if you've got to hard carry the cast a little bit or otherwise. And sometimes natural chemistry comes into play. The cool thing about the RLCS and the RLCS commentators is we all work together for a very long time. And this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with understanding, is that obviously not all the casters are the same on the broadcast, and that's for a good reason. You want varying styles and personalities and stuff to that extent, because not everybody's going to like the same person. People who like me aren't going to like other people, and vice versa. Just because I present something a different way doesn't mean it's going to be the same way as somebody else. You know, like there's certain takes, and there's that diversity of style for a reason. So you can kind of tackle every different type of personality trait or everybody's different likes and tastes. And that same thing applies to actually commentary partners. When you get to cast with somebody, they have different nuances or different tendencies or different things that as a commentator is kind of like learning again for the first time, and that gives you a different perspective. This person does this thing really well, and I'm going to listen to what they have to say and kind of take that and mold, which makes my casting better, and vice versa. There may be different approaches. It's the same thing as, you know, trying to come up with a solution on a puzzle or like an escape room or something. People have different approaches to different things, and sometimes people are better suited for those things. And when you work and change with those different casters, it's really, really good for you as a commentator to work with other partners. I will say, though, the benefit of working with the same partner for an extended period of time is you do build that chemistry and that camaraderie, and it does allow you to, as a collective, become better overall just as a whole. So I personally enjoy getting to cast with other people because there is different things that you like and dislike about certain commentators. But all the guys on the RLCS are incredibly talented. I've gotten the chance to work with other commentators outside of the RLCS that are also incredibly talented. I've been very lucky to work with some of the people that I have. Within Rocket League itself, just certain things that I like about certain people. Wavepunk is incredible at creating atmosphere. His intense moment situation is really good. Just a really good play-by-play altogether. And also a phenomenal cadence, especially in the really high moments. I mean, what more do I need to say than the best overtime? You know, the Dignitas Vitality series in Season 8. Like, that casting is just superb. You look at someone like Achieves, who's very analytical and tackles points and basically tells you what I'm thinking, which it's super hard to find that. The same thing applies to James Bot. Turtle obviously has pro experience and also has kind of that just genuine reaction, which is really hard to come by nowadays. You also have people like Jorby who just get you excited. You've got people like Leaf that hold down the fort along with Gibbs and really provide all the historical and statistical evidence as well as the storylines and all the important stuff to keep the show moving. Like, every single caster, and I apologize if I didn't mention anybody directly, but each caster has their own different individuality and what is special about them and what they bring to the broadcast. And that same thing applies when you're casting with a pair or a duo. So it's an entirely subjective thing, who you like, who you dislike, and that's going to be something that you as a caster have to learn from very early on. But between the different pairings and the different people you cast with, there's certain things I really, really like and dislike about every single commentator, and that applies to, I think, all of us. I started my career a lot, obviously, with Leaf X, as everybody knows, but eventually, because of visa issues, he ended up not being around for a while. I started casting with Shogun a bunch, which was a really good time. I've also done a ton with Wavepunk, and very little with Final Carpet because I were both analytical. I also casted a little bit with Jorby, Achieves at E-League. Like, you get a lot of different pairings, so there is really no, like, yo, this is my favorite, this is my second. Like, it just doesn't work like that. But you learn to appreciate the nuances and the tendencies and the characteristics that are unique to each person, rather than being like, yo, this guy's my favorite, because that really doesn't happen. Really good question. Hopefully that breaks it down in like way too much detail. Next one comes from Tomato that says, because of, or most of, the esports teams are not bound to a city or region or even a country, I find it pretty hard to identify myself with an org because I can't just support my local team. What do you think about this problem, and do you have tips for finding a favorite team? Yeah, this all depends on what your background is. Some people like myself, obviously coming from the Green Bay area with the Packers, we've had a rivalry against the Bears for, you know, literally a century. It is my team. That will always be my team, and it's easy because that's just what I grew up with. And that isn't always the case in esports, and it's why things like Overwatch League did a regional-based franchise, and something that I think might actually come to Rocket League in the future. But as of right now, I've actually put this tweet out in the past and been like, what makes you a fan of Rocket League? What makes you a fan of a certain thing? And there was a multitude of answers. And I think you just have to find out what that is for you specifically. Are you a fan of a player? Are you a fan of a certain team? Are you a fan of a certain storyline? Some people like underdogs. Some people like the dynasties. Some people like this player who's really, really good mechanically. I personally am a huge fan of people that do the support style and the nuances. So again, I think you just have to identify of what you personally find as a fan. And if regional style is kind of your go-to, your forte, I would honestly go to Liquipedia and find players from your area. Go see if you can find players that are from your hometown or someone that you can get behind on a regional side and build it that way. Because again, like you said, organizations aren't necessarily locked. Most organizations have a headquarters based in an area, but as they get bigger and bigger, they have offices in multiple areas of the world. So again, I think it's entirely up to you and how you want to identify. But again, you just have to kind of identify what that reason is to what makes you want to be a fan. And for most of us, it's a matter of the storylines, which I do think the RLCS guys do a really good job of kind of hitting all the check marks of like, yo, this is what is important in this match. These guys are old teammates. These guys are rivals, all that kind of stuff. So honestly, if it really comes down to it, make sure you watch the pre-shows and listen to the commentators in the analyst desk about the things and the storylines they're talking about, because that'll give you something to grasp onto. Last but not least comes from Curtis Turley that says, who's your favorite Rocket League creator? Don't sit on the fence. Give us your number one. Being completely honest, I was never a YouTube person growing up. I always preferred live content and watching streams over watching YouTube videos. And I'm trying to change that a little bit just because I'm trying to understand the YouTube space a lot more. I've always been a huge fan of obviously supporting my friends. So I watch John Salmon, you get people like Lethmere and stuff like that, and try to learn from some of the big dogs. I think Sunless still, even though he does more consistent content than he used to, I mean, you can just see the way that he does the cinematography and the way he tells a story and all that kind of stuff. Like, Sunless's content's absolutely incredible. Flume's recent Rocket League movie was really good. And Sunless is probably my number one because the way he presents his content, there's a beginning, middle, end. There's a story to it. And it's not necessarily like, hey, I'm playing on a team doing this thing at a high level and this is the result. And I mean, case in point, Musty absolutely crushes it with that, where even though he's playing Rocket League, he presents it in a way that makes you want to follow along in this story that's happening. Even though he's just playing Rocket League, if you really want to break it down, and that's not to diminish what he's doing, he does a really incredible job of giving you that gripping story, while Sunless is taking a concept or an idea and building a story around it. He has an idea of like, yo, these players are going to do this thing, like when he did the pros versus hacker versus normal, like a gold player or something like that. He gives you an idea or a premises and then builds the story, and you get to kind of just follow along to see how it develops. And that's personally the stuff I like the most. I think Sunless does a really good job of that. It's probably why he's my favorite. But I personally, because I've been watching and casting the Rocket League pro scene for so long, I don't watch any like Road to SSL. I don't watch any like gameplay videos. I used to watch a bunch of comms videos and stuff, but I just don't really watch Rocket League YouTube all that much. But the ones that I do make sure to check out, I always try to support the friends and watch their content. And then I also I do enjoy Sunless's content quite a bit. That is going to do it for this Q&A Sunday. If you guys do have any additional questions, as I mentioned in the intro, and you would like me to answer them next Sunday, drop those in the comments down below. I always love seeing what you guys have to ask and what things you guys are curious about, whether it be my facial hair. You don't want me to grow facial hair, man. I look like a hobo. It's bad. But whatever the question is, I'm more than willing to answer. So again, drop those in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. We'll see you next time, and have a good rest of your day. Peace.